up? What's up? It's your girl, Jasmine Cherie, and welcome to another episode on the House of Jazz podcast. Now listen, here in the House of Jazz, just like any other house, your mama house, your grandma's house, we got house rules. Your first rule in the House of Jazz is that you choose you and watch everything else choose you too. A lot of the things that we talk about on this podcast are going to be centered around self-preservation, thought processes, and things like that. So remember, choose you and watch everything else choose you too. Rule number 2 is to revert back to rule number 1. Now, if there were a rule number 3, it'll be embedded in, you know how in the South, I know for me in the South, I grew up, what goes on in our house stays in our house. So that ain't what we doing here in the House of Jazz. Anything that goes on in the House of Jazz, I want you to share it. Go tell your friend, go tell your neighbor, your grandma, somebody. All right? Because I believe the more people that we get here, we have impactful conversations, we change perspectives, or we add perspectives to somebody else's thought process, we can make even more and better informed decisions, or not. But the thing is, we have the freedom to choose here. So if there was a rule number 3, share my stuff. Okay? All right. So today is going to be dedicated to my mamas. It's going to be dedicated to my mamas. And here is why. And sometimes this is like a controversial topic. And we're talking about postpartum depression, to be more specific. So I know around May of this year, and this is being recorded in 2023, May of this year, I reposted a video that I saw where this lady, if I'm not mistaken, she was a scientist, and she was basically saying on the video that if you were a mom and you were had a baby within the last 2 to 5 years, even 7 years, that you were still in your postpartum stage, right? That thing caught me really, really good because I, having 3 children, I have a 13-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So I'm like, if you're saying 7 years, that means I'm catching double over here with this 5 and this 2-year-old. But I reposted that, and it was very interesting because that particular post went viral, and there were a lot of comments that were underneath this post. But I thought that it was important for us to talk about it even on this podcast because sometimes we hear, I'm not going to say tag words, but like big words, big topics like postpartum depression. And it brought me back to the fact that we don't really know what that looks like until we've experienced it ourselves, or had maybe a family member, a friend, a sister, a sibling, something like that to experience it. I can remember with even having 3 children, I don't think I ever went through postpartum depression with my oldest child. I could never recall a time where I just did not feel like myself, that I did not feel like I wanted to, or like I was operating outside of myself. I never felt that. And even in me saying this right now, I don't even know if it's an actual feeling, but there are different things that you can catch on to different characteristics of postpartum depression. And so I can remember with my second son, I literally remember sitting on the couch. It was me, my son, one of my best friends, one of my sorority sisters, and I think my sister. We were all in the living area. And I can actually recall sitting there and out of nowhere, just breaking down in tears, just busting out crying. Couldn't tell what was happening, what was going on. Now, mind you, with my second son, there was what I would deem as a traumatic experience for me, because 2 months after finding out that I had conceived him, or that I was pregnant with him, his father left, decided, hey, don't want anything to do with this. Maybe we can co-parent. But then there were things that happened in between the time that I found out I was pregnant to the time that we gave birth, even up till today. But I specifically remember that whatever I was going through at that time, it was heightened. I also remember prior to having my son, not even feeling like an emotional connection to him until I was about 6 months pregnant. And it was just due to a lot of the things that I was going through. But after having him, and going through just the natural hormonal spurts and things, and the outside things that were taking place, postpartum depression was real. I never thought about like hurting myself or hurting my baby, but I do remember being in a very, very dark space where I could not, at this point, pull myself out of. And I felt like it was very unusual. It was something that I wasn't accustomed to for me, because I've always prided myself on being a go-getter. No matter what's going on, somebody's got to handle it. It's going to be me. You need to get up and go to work. You're going to do it. But at this point in my life, I could not figure out why. And so I tell this story, and I wanted to talk about this on this podcast because even in the post that I read, I'm going to read it to you. Even in the post, my caption, in addition to what the lady talked about on my video, my caption read, "Mamas, give yourself grace and love today, especially if you're like me and have had a child within the last 7 years." I've had two, and I talk about my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old. And so it can hit me double sometimes. When I experience feelings and things that I can't explain, I have to remember what was said in the clip. Oftentimes we just push through and tell ourselves the story that we're okay, that we can do it, or play the strong card. Strong, that's another word we're gonna have to talk about. When what we simply need is grace, support, help, understanding, love, and a whole lot of rest. And then I state, and let me tell you, if someone else won't give it to you, you give it to yourself the best way you know how. Preserve yourself for your baby or your babies, and then make sure you share that same love with another mama. So in that piece that says you simply need to give yourself grace, support, or you need grace, support, help, understanding, love, and a lot of rest, I really want you guys to put emphasis on that. I do understand that everybody's support system looks different from person to person, tribe to tribe. But one thing being in therapy has taught me is that sometimes we get in those sunken places that we aren't able to identify the people who can actually support us. So if you're somebody out there that knows somebody who may have just had a baby, you can be that support, because if they are experiencing postpartum depression, they may not even know what it is. They may not even know what to ask for. They may not even know how to articulate the support that you may need at the time. But if you are a mama who may be in your stage of postpartum depression, do things that you know or that you may gather that may help you as much as you can attain. Really give yourself grace. And this was really big for me because I know with all of my children, I'm super, super hard on myself. I'm super hard on myself about how I rear them. I'm super hard on myself about the things that I feel like I can't do well or I'm not doing well. And then sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, I'm doing that dang on thing. But in the days that I'm not, you have to give yourself grace, okay? If today you can't wash the dishes, okay, all right? Call your auntie, your mama, your sister if you can. Or do it at a later time. Don't feel bad about resting either. You know that whole thing about rest when the baby rests? As hard as it is for that to actually take place. And people who don't really understand unless they're in the shoes, as hard as it may feel, rest when your baby rests, for real. Rest is going to be your number one priority, because when you don't rest well, you don't give any of your other bodily functions, organs, and all this other thing. You don't even give yourself time to heal properly when you do not rest. And if you are breastfeeding, mama, rest is a part of even how you and your body actually makes up the milk that you have to give to your baby. So grace, understanding, love, and a lot of rest, okay? So again, this episode was for my mamas who want to talk about postpartum depression. I gave you a little scenario about how I experienced it, how I knew for sure I was experiencing it. Another thing is, when we're also in those stages, it's kind of hard to make certain decisions. I know I was afraid of a lot of things, and I've never been that fearful in my life. So if you are experiencing anything like fear or anything like that, make sure you reach out to somebody. Talk to somebody if you can. Apparently, hopefully, somebody that you trust. But make sure you get the support, or you try to go out and seek the support that you think that you may need. If you are a mom who is experiencing postpartum depression, let us know in the comments. And if you are someone who knows how to support that mom, whether that is therapy, whether that is certain meditations, whether that is certain affirmations, and even if you want to show a little love in the comments, do that too. I just want you guys to know that if you're in that stage, if you're within 7 years of having your child, know that you are still in the place where you need to be giving yourself as much grace and as much love as possible, okay? Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you like this video, share my stuff, and then hit that little red button so you can be a part of the house party. All right? Till next episode. See you soon. Bye.